1934. Powell began his career in silent films after becoming hooked on the movies as a teenager. In the 30s, he formed a partnership with the screenwriter and producer Emmerich Pressburger. Together, they made more than 20 films, including perhaps his most famous, The Red Shoes, which starred Moira Shearer. During the Second World War, his picture, The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, caused such concern that Winston Churchill tried to ban it because it wasn't positive enough. Our arts correspondent Fiona Murch looks back at Michael Powell's career.
In January 1921, Michael Powell discovered The Picture Goer, a new magazine about the film industry, and with it found his vocation. He was a young and impressionable 16.
This was for me. From now on, I knew that I was born to be a film director. I became a film buff.
On his first day in a studio, he was sacked for dropping priceless photographic plates, but he refused to leave the lot. He was fascinated by the magic and determined to succeed. It wasn't until his partnership with screenwriter Emmerich Pressburger that fame was secured. In 1942, they formed their own company, The Archers, and together, over 18 years, produced a string of box office hits. Not all the fame was a result of critical acclaim. The life and times of Colonel Blimp attracted attention because of the opposition of Prime Minister Churchill.
I'm not prepared to allow propaganda detrimental to the morale of the army.
Churchill succeeded in banning it from America till after the war.
We didn't bear any malice to Churchill. We knew he was mainly responsible for us all being reserved to make films during the war. At least he knew films were a real weapon. When I made Black Narcissus in 1946, I was already groping my way towards a new kind of film, what I called a composed film, a combination of music, action, dialogue, but the music being the master. It worked. I could hardly believe my eyes. Filmmaking was never the same for me again after that.
It was a successful formula which he repeated in his most popular film, The Red Shoes. With this interpretation of Hans Christian Andersen, the public thought they knew what to expect from their director, Michael Powell. Then he made the horror film Peeping Tom in 1960, and both critics and producers rank were appalled.
Helen! Helen! I'm afraid.
No, no, Mama, no!
And I'm glad. I'm afraid.
I believed in the film. They didn't. They withdrew it, and I heard that it was sold to some cheapjack in America for television. It vanished for 20 years, and I vanished with it.
According to friend David Putnam, Powell never forgave Rank for his fall from grace.
It's a funny industry, mine, and I think that Mickey's adventurousness and the type of film he was making became, or thought to be, unfashionable. I say in hindsight, it looks like a pretty silly decision by the powers that then were. But he became unfashionable, and unfortunately fashion's a big influence in the world of cinema, and it wasn't until he was rediscovered, I have to say to British filmmakers' eternal discredit, he was rediscovered by the Americans, Scorsese and Coppola, that he was given a late flowering, and I think that meant a very great deal to him. His last few years, he was extremely happy, very benign, and a joy to be with.
Powell never recovered from the career setback of Peeping Tom, despite the attempts of his American fans, directors Martin Scorsese and Francis Ford Coppola, to rescue him. In 1984, he married his second wife and embarked on his autobiography, A Life in Movies. He finished the second volume just last week. Part 1 begins with his love of running water.
I shall not be afraid to swim out over those awesome depths. I've seen men and women far better and cleverer than I, crippled by illness, killed by chance. I've been allowed to reach the summit at which I aimed, in a profession that never existed until we invented it.